Hi, I'm Allie with the Potomac Bead Company, and I'm going to show you how to do a herringbone bracelet using twin beads, which the twin beads are a bead that have two holes that are made by Preciosa, and they're in the seed bead category. For this bracelet, you need 1 to however many colors you're feeling creative amount of twin beads, and you also need a couple 8/0 beads. The other bead that you need is something to finish off the end with, whether or not it's a bead or a clasp. This is a triangular herringbone and peyote bead that we've already made that I'm going to use for the clasp on this bracelet. So to start out for this bracelet, what you're going to do is you're going to do 2 of the colors. I'm going to do a patterned bracelet. I'm doing 2 of my green twin beads, and then I'm going to do 1 of my 8/0 beads. I'm going to do 2 of my purple beads, another 1 of my 8/0s, and then 2 of my green beads again. This is my first row. For the first row, that's the only place that you're going to use these seed beads. And then I'm going to use it at the end of my bracelet as well. I take those down to my stop bead that I've already put on my thread, and they're going to create my first row. If you're unfamiliar with how to do a stop bead, look at the other videos and you'll get an idea how to. I'm going to take my needle then back through my twin beads. So the twins have 2 holes. I've strung 2 twin beads, an 8/0, 2 twins, 8/0, 2 twins. I'm going back through the last twin that I went through from the bottom, and then I'm going through the top, and my needle's coming out at the top of the twin beads. I'm going to add 2 more of that same color bead, 2 more of the twins, and then I'm going back through the top of the next twin bead that's in line, that's the same color, as well as the next twin bead, which is a purple bead. So you add 2, you go through 1 of your twin beads, add 2 beads, and then go through 2 top holes. When I get through the next top hole, I'm going to add 2 of the purple beads, go through my purple twin bead, and go through my next top of my green twin bead. So I'm just adding basically 2 beads in between my groups. What this is going to do is create a V-like effect. At this point I need to add 2 of my green beads and go through the top hole of that first green bead that I put on originally. What this does then is creates my second row. Let me get that tail out of there. This is going to create my second row of my bracelet. So what you can see is there's a V pattern that's starting. That's what herringbone is. I now take my needle back through the top. So every time I get to a row and the end of it, I go through the bottom of the last bead that I added and then through the top. Now I'm going to switch up my pattern to get a checked pattern, a checkerboard pattern. It looks really great with black and white too. And I'm going to add 2 purple beads between my 2 green beads, go through my green bead and my purple bead, and then I'm going to add 2 green beads in between my purple beads. So I'm doing a pattern of 4 beads. I add in a block here. I sewed through then my purple bead and my green bead, add 2 more of my purple beads in between the greens, and I'm done my row. Again, to start the next row, what I'm going to do is go through the top of my last bead that I added and get ready to add 2 more purple beads. I've continued building my bracelet and forming my pattern of the checker boxes here, and what I'm going to do is make this the end of my bracelet. So imagine if I've already done the whole rest of the 6 inches of my bracelet, and what I'm going to do is use my 8/0 seed beads again. Because the twins, and anytime you do herringbone, you actually get that V, you have an empty space that you need to make up for. So on the first original side, we added 2 beads in between, and on this side, we're going to add 3 between where those V sections are. So I'm going to pick up my 8/0 bead, sew through, just as if I was continuing with my herringbone pattern. I sew through the next bead of the same color and then a bead of the next color. When I get to the middle here, I'm actually going to add a grouping of beads. I'm going to pick about 4 beads. And what I'm going to do is add my clasp on. This is going to be my clasp, this bead here. So I'm going right through the middle of my bead. I did that same thing on this bead here that has just a round amethyst bead. I put another bead on top of the bead. it doesn't matter what size it is. It can be the same 8/0 bead, it could be a 6/0 bead, it could be an 11 bead, whatever size won't go through. I sew back down through, not going back through that bead on the opposite side of my closure piece. So back down through my 4 beads that I added. And then I'm going to continue on my herringbone, sewing through the next green bead as well as the next purple. And that's going to be how I add the one section of my clasp. And then I need one more 8/0 bead to go in between here. I always like to reinforce my bracelets and to reinforce anytime you have a bead that's going to be a closure. To do that, I need to get back to that point. I'm going to sew down along the side of my bead and back through that first hole of my herringbone. And get the needle through there. It can be tight. And basically I just follow the sides of the herringbone beads, sewing up now from the bottom to the top here. And what that's going to do is hide any thread. I come back up the top of one of the twin beads and go back up through all of those beads again, through the top of my bead or my closure. And sew down through the top again, and then back through in line. And as I get to the end here, I'll give it a knot.